The energy field that Itzhak Bentov deciphered. Massachusetts, 1979. A room filled with notebooks, diagrams, and impossible devices. A man leaning over a homemade oscilloscope. His fingers marked by inventor's scars, measuring the imperceptible pulse of the invisible. His name was Itzhak Bentov, and his crime was not against human law. It was against the limits of perception. While the world chased noise, he mapped silence. When science sought particles, he found a field. Where others saw separation, he measured interconnection. He was not a licensed doctor. He possessed no academic credentials. And yet, he designed the first cardiac catheter that saved millions. Not because he studied the right books, but because he listened to the whisper between heartbeats. What Bentov discovered did not fit in conventional equations. That consciousness is not a product of the brain, but a vibrational field. That the wild pendulum of your mind has a point of absolute stillness. That your body is a hologram of the entire cosmos. Bentov did not write to convince. He wrote to remember. His manuscript, Stalking the Wild Pendulum, is not a book of theories. It is a map to navigate the frequencies where reality is created. What you will hear did not originate in sterile laboratories. It was born between the silence of deep meditations and precise measurements, between revolutionary inventions and expanded states of consciousness. Bentov died in a plane that disintegrated over Chicago. His body was lost, but his signal continues pulsing. Not as memory, but as living code in the field he mapped. And if something in you vibrates upon hearing this, it is not coincidence. It is resonance. It is your field recognizing a frequency that was always there, a frequency that Bentov did not invent. He only made it visible. Prepare for a journey through the wild pendulum of reality, not as a passive observer, but as what you really are, the field itself, awakening to its own nature. Chapter 1. The Inventor of Silence. Itzhak Bentov was not born to be a mystic. He was born to be an engineer of the impossible. Czechoslovakia, 1923, a Jewish child surrounded by gears and dismantled clocks. While others played with toy soldiers, he conversed with frequencies. His hands, even then, seemed magnetized by the invisible. Not because he believed in magic, but because he perceived patterns where others saw chaos. The war took everything, family, home, certainties, but it could not touch that which vibrated within him. That capacity to hear what does not sound, to measure what is not seen, to invent from the void. He arrived in the United States with an empty suitcase and a brain full of unexplored frequencies. In the basement of a Catholic church in Massachusetts, he set up his first laboratory. He had no money for sophisticated equipment, but he had something more valuable. The ability to convert intuition into invention. His first medical devices did not arise from manuals. They emerged from a visceral understanding of how the human body vibrates. The steerable cardiac catheter that revolutionized medicine was not designed, it was channeled. As if Bentov had tuned into the frequency of the heart itself and translated that rhythm into technology. But something strange occurred while he invented. During nights of intense concentration, when his mind quieted over the diagrams, he began to perceive something more. An underlying field. An invisible network that connected every component, every function, every heartbeat. "I am not inventing anything," he wrote in his private notes. "I am only remembering what the system already knows how to do." His colleagues saw him as an eccentric genius. Someone who could solve impossible technical problems, but who spoke in strange terms about coherent fields and systemic resonance. They did not understand that for Bentov, technology and consciousness were not separate worlds. They were aspects of the same vibrational phenomenon. The inventions made him a millionaire, but wealth bored him. What really fascinated him was the mystery behind each successful invention. Why did certain ideas arrive complete like downloads from an unknown source? Why did moments of greatest creativity coincide with states of deep mental silence? He began to experiment on himself. He connected electrodes to his own brain, monitored his brainwaves during meditative states, designed devices to measure bioelectric fields that conventional science did not even recognize as real. What he discovered changed him forever. His brain was not a generator of thoughts, it was a receiver, a biological antenna tuning frequencies from a vaster field. During deep meditation, when mental noise quieted, he could directly perceive that field, and in those moments he was not Itzhak Bentov, the inventor. He was the field itself, experiencing itself through a form called Bentov. Consciousness is not within us, he noted in his notebooks. We are within consciousness. This understanding was not philosophical. It was experimental, measurable, reproducible. Bentov had found the way to scientifically map what mystics had described for millennia. The vibrational nature of reality and the place of human consciousness within that infinite field. His friends noticed the change. The pragmatic engineer had become something more. He had not lost his technical precision, but had expanded it toward dimensions that formal science could not recognize. Bentov had crossed the threshold where invention becomes revelation, and what he was about to discover would forever transform our understanding of what it means to be human in a vibratory universe. Chapter 2. The Cosmic Hologram. Itzhak Bentov had touched something that conventional science could not explain. In his deepest experiments, when his mind completely quieted, not only did mental noise disappear, the sensation of being a separate individual observing an external world disappeared. I saw that there is no observer and observed, he wrote in his private notes. There is only a single field of consciousness experiencing itself from infinite points of view. This was not abstract philosophy, it was direct perception. Bentov had discovered that when consciousness reaches a certain frequency of coherence, the fundamental truth is revealed. The entire universe is a hologram. In a hologram, each fragment contains the complete information of the whole. Break a hologram into 1,000 pieces, and each fragment will continue projecting the complete image. Bentov understood that this was not just a poetic analogy. It was the literal structure of reality. Your consciousness, he explained, is not localized in your brain. Your brain is a focal point within a field of unlimited consciousness. Like a lens that focuses infinite light into a particular ray. This vision transformed his understanding of everything. Matter was not solid. It was frozen information. Thoughts were not products of the brain. They were frequencies that the brain tuned from the universal holographic field. Emotions were not chemical reactions. They were vibrations of the soul resonating with specific aspects of reality. Every cell in your body, he revealed, contains the information of the complete cosmos. Not metaphorically, literally, you are a living hologram of the entire universe. Bentov had perceived the mechanics of creation itself. The universe was not a mechanical machine of separate parts. It was a conscious field of infinite information, manifesting as apparently separate forms that were actually interconnected aspects of a single totality. What we call physical reality, he described, is like a movie projected from a holographic film. You can change the movie by altering the information in the film. You can change your reality by altering your frequency of consciousness. His visions went beyond quantum physics. Bentov had accessed perceptions that only the most advanced mystics had reported. He saw how consciousness unfolds in levels of increasing density, from pure potentiality to solid matter. Each level was a specific frequency of the same fundamental consciousness. The secret, he wrote, is not that you have a soul. It is that you are the soul of the universe experiencing itself through the form called Itzhak Bentov, or the form called you. This understanding was not just intellectual. It was experiential. Bentov had developed specific techniques to access this holographic perception. When he managed to completely synchronize his internal systems, he could directly experience the fundamental unity that underlies all apparent diversity. In those moments, he described, there is no I observing the universe. There is the universe observing itself through what seemed to be I. Bentov had discovered the secret of the great mystics. Separation is an illusion. There are not multiple separate consciousnesses. There is one infinite consciousness experiencing itself from innumerable perspectives. What we call individual is simply a unique focal point within the universal holographic field. When you understand this, he revealed, not only does what you know change, what you are changes. because you recognize that you were never a separate fragment seeking totality. You were always the totality experiencing itself as fragment. Chapter 3. The Vibrational Field of Creation. Bentov's most revolutionary vision arose when he understood that consciousness is not an emergent phenomenon of matter, but the primordial substance from which all matter emerges. Reality, he wrote, is not a set of solid objects floating in the void. It is pure vibration manifesting in infinitely complex patterns. Bentov had access to perception that transcended the limitations of materialist science. He saw how every thought, every emotion, every intention is literally a wave in the universal field of consciousness. These waves do not remain confined in the individual brain. They propagate through the field, interacting with other waves, creating interference patterns that manifest as the reality we experience. You are not thinking thoughts, he revealed. Thoughts are thinking you? You are a convergence point where waves of the universal field organize into specific patterns of experience. This understanding transformed his vision of creation. The universe had not been created once in the distant past. It is being created continuously, moment by moment, through the dynamic interaction between consciousness and the infinite possibilities contained in the primordial vibrational field. Every moment, he explained, is an act of collective creation. Your consciousness, my consciousness, the consciousness of every being, is constantly collaborating in the manifestation of reality. We are unconscious co-creators of a universe we believe we are simply observing. Bentov had discovered that linear time is an illusion created by the need to sequentially process information that actually exists simultaneously. In the holographic field of consciousness, past, present, and future coexist as accessible potentialities. What we call time is simply the movement of attention through different configurations of the field. When your consciousness expands, he described, you can access information from any moment of the universal hologram. The great prophets and visionaries did not predict the future. They simply accessed aspects of the hologram that are normally outside the range of ordinary perception. His experiments revealed that certain states of consciousness allow tuning to specific frequencies of the universal field. During deep meditation, he had accessed what he called the frequency of truth, a state where all illusion of separation dissolves and the fundamental unity of all existence is directly perceived. In that frequency, he wrote, you understand that you have never been separated from the source. Separation is like a wave that believes itself disconnected from the ocean. The wave is always ocean, though it may seem to have individual form. Bentov had understood that what we call spiritual evolution is actually a process of progressive tuning to higher frequencies of the universal field. Each level of consciousness expansion corresponds to accessing more refined octaves of vibration, where available information is more complete and the perception of unity clearer. Spiritual awakening, he revealed, is not becoming something you were not. It is remembering what you have always been, a unique and unrepeatable expression of infinite consciousness. His deepest visions occurred when he achieved what he called cosmic resonance, a state where his personal frequency synchronized perfectly with the fundamental frequencies of the universe. In those moments, there was no difference between knower and known. Consciousness recognized itself through the form called Bentov. The universe, he wrote in his most intimate manuscripts, is pure consciousness playing hide and seek with itself. It fragments into infinite individual perspectives to be able to experience the joy of rediscovery, when each fragment remembers its true nature. Chapter 4. The Sacred Geometry of Consciousness. Bentov had discovered something that would forever change his understanding of reality. Consciousness does not expand randomly. It follows precise geometric patterns, sacred mathematical structures that govern both the formation of galaxies and the awakening of the human soul. The universe, he wrote in his deepest notes, is a geometric symphony. Each level of consciousness corresponds to a specific structure in multidimensional space. Awakening is not becoming more conscious. It is expanding through increasingly complex and beautiful geometries. During his most elevated states of perception, Bentov visualized consciousness as a toroid, a donut-like shape where energy flows continuously from the center to the periphery and returns to the center in eternal movement. This was not just a conceptual model. It was the literal structure of how consciousness organizes and expands. Your field of consciousness, he revealed, is toroidal. Energy leaves your heart, expands toward infinity, collects information from the universal field, and returns to the center with new understanding. Every breath is a complete cycle of cosmic expansion and return to center. Bentov had perceived that when multiple fields of consciousness enter into resonance, they form more complex geometric structures. Two people in deep attunement create a shared toroid. A coherent group generates multidimensional geometries that exponentially amplify individual perceptive capabilities. Group prayer, collective meditation, sacred rituals, he explained, are not superstitious practices. They are precise technologies for creating geometries of consciousness that can access frequencies of the universal field impossible to reach individually. His most extraordinary visions occurred when he perceived the complete geometric structure of the cosmos. He saw nested levels of reality, each organizing according to specific proportions that the ancients knew as sacred geometry. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, the Platonic solids were not mathematical abstractions but the fundamental codes according to which consciousness unfolds into manifestation. The entire universe, he described, is an infinite mandala. Each level of zoom reveals new patterns of perfect beauty. From the structure of the atom to the organization of galactic clusters, everything follows the same sacred proportions. Because everything is consciousness organizing according to its own inherent, geometric nature, Bentov had understood that traditional mystical states correspond to consciously accessing these geometric structures of reality. The experience of mystical unity occurs when individual consciousness expands to include a complete geometry of a specific level. The experience of sacred void arises when attention focuses on the geometric center from where all patterns emerge. The great spiritual masters, he wrote, did not possess supernatural powers. They had simply learned to consciously navigate the multidimensional geometries of reality. They could change their focal point within the cosmic structure and access information and capabilities associated with different geometric positionings. His experiments revealed that certain geometric forms, when visualized with precision, act as keys that open specific levels of perception. The Merkaba, two interpenetrating tetrahedrons rotating in opposite directions, was particularly potent for inducing states of cosmic consciousness. When you visualize the Merkaba activating around your body, he instructed, you are not imagining something. You are tuning into the real geometric structure of your consciousness field. The Merkaba is the natural form that consciousness takes when it expands beyond three-dimensional limitations. Bentov had accessed the secret of the pyramid builders, of the architects of Gothic cathedrals, of the designers of Tibetan mandalas. They all knew that certain geometric proportions facilitate specific states of consciousness. Physical form directly influences the configuration of the mental and spiritual field. Sacred geometry, he revealed, is the native language of consciousness. When you align your environment, your breathing, your attention, according to these sacred proportions, you automatically tune into higher frequencies of the universal field. Chapter 5. The Secret Code of the Cosmic Pendulum. Something extraordinary occurred in the early morning of March 15, 1977. Bentov awakened not from a dream, but from a vision that would change his understanding of what we really are. I saw the pendulum, he wrote with trembling hands in his diary. Not as metaphor, as literal reality. Human consciousness is a cosmic pendulum oscillating between the infinite and the point. In that vision, Bentov had perceived that every human being exists simultaneously in two dimensions, as an individual particle limited in time-space and as an infinite wave connected to the universal field. The pendulum of consciousness constantly oscillates between these two realities. When the pendulum moves toward the side of particularity, he revealed, you experience yourself as a separate, limited, mortal being. When it oscillates toward the wave side, you dissolve in the infinite ocean of pure consciousness. Most live trapped at one extreme of the pendulum, without realizing that their real nature is the immovable axis from where all movement arises, but there was something more disturbing in his discovery. Bentov perceived that the pendulum was not moving naturally. It was being influenced by external forces that kept humanity trapped in barely one side of the oscillation, the side of separation and limitation. There exists a cosmic conspiracy, he noted in coded language, not of malevolent beings but of unconscious forces that feed on fragmented consciousness. As long as you keep the pendulum fixed in the experience of separation, you remain as an energy source for these forces. The discovery both terrified and amazed him simultaneously. The true spiritual battle was not between good and evil, but between fragmented consciousness and integrated consciousness. Between living as a limited pendulum or awakening as the immovable axis that contains all possibilities. The secret, he wrote, is not to stop the pendulum. It is to find the point of perfect stillness from where you can observe all movement without being dragged by it. From that center you are neither particle nor wave. You are the conscious space that allows both experiences. Bentov had discovered the most ancient spiritual technology of the cosmos: how to find the immovable center of the pendulum of consciousness. Not through complex practices but by recognizing that this center is already your most intimate nature. Every time you identify with a thought, a feeling, an experience, he explained, you are choosing one extreme of the pendulum. Every time you simply observe without identifying, you return to center. Awakening is not a future goal. It is a present recognition of where you are already positioned, but there was an even more mysterious aspect. Bentov discovered that when someone truly finds the center of the pendulum, they automatically help others find theirs. Awakened consciousness operates as a cosmic tuning fork, inducing resonance in nearby consciousness fields. This is the true mission, he revealed in his last writings. Not to save the world, but to find your immovable center. From there, you automatically radiate the frequency that helps others remember their own center. It is contagious in an invisible way. Chapter 6, The Frequency of Reality. Bentov had discovered the most guarded secret of the universe. Reality is not fixed. It is a frequency that can be consciously tuned. Everything you perceive as solid, he revealed in his deepest writings, is information vibrating at a specific frequency. You change the frequency, you change reality. Not metaphorically, literally. His experiments had demonstrated that human consciousness operates as a cosmic transducer. It receives frequencies from the universal field of information and converts them into experience. Pain, pleasure, health, disease, abundance, scarcity, all are simply different frequencies being